everybody doing? I know it's been a little bit since I posted something. Basically, I've been reflecting on the topic I'm going to talk to about today. And it's been frustrating at how it seems in multiple angles of my life I'm basically silenced. You know, the lack of freedom of First Amendment through work, personal life, online, through pseudonyms and hidden profiles. So I'm hoping that this video gets a little bit of attention. I'm going to structure it and phrase it a little bit more tolerable, I guess, more censor-friendly than my usual videos. The concept I want to talk about today is twofold. The first one is extinction. I don't know why, but that word has stuck with me since I was a kid. I remember the first time learning about that word, extinction, and an animal being extinct. It was the dinosaurs. To quickly relate to every young boy that grew up in probably from the 60s to about the mid-2000s. I'd say dinosaurs were probably like peak for being a little boy, up with there with like astronaut, shit like that. But, teacher teaches us about extinction. And what happened to them, we thought at the time, was a massive asteroid came and wiped them all out. Extinction doesn't need to be a major catalyst impact event. It can be slow, subtle things. Look at the way we've caused extinction of animals within humanity's lifetime. The most obvious example that comes to mind is the dodo. Tasmanian tiger. Sure, thousands of other species we can't even think about or name. Woolly mammoth we fucking hunted to extinction. So even ancient humans have been doing this. It's not a new phenomenon for humanity. But I think what's on the horizon now is extinction of the human race. And how this is going to go isn't going to be because of a major catalyst event. Most likely. It's going to be through small, decisive, subliminal effects that happen. The extinction I'm going to focus on in this topic is of Western culture. And to be a little bit more specific on that, white male Caucasian culture. So let's take a quick step back and kind of reevaluate here. Not talking about how white people are losing their ability to function or be a positive influence in their community. There's a lot of evidence to a majority of groups that are minorities that we are the problem. And to a very small extent, I think they're onto something, because who's the majority? As far as we're aware, the majority in America is still white males. So, to an extent, a lot of our problems do stem from them. Look at our government. Old, white, male politicians. And if you're anywhere aware of the Epstein list, I'm sure the vast majority of white male politicians are on that list. So I'm not siding with us or my race, my gender. I'm just saying I see a potential for what those minority groups are talking about. But the extinction that I'm trying to make people aware of is, look at all of these other countries. Look at Europe. Look at Britain specifically. Look at how there are these cultures that have been intermingled for hundreds, if not 1,000 years at this point, to the point now where you're getting so much social media posts on what the minority is doing to the majority of that country. Almost to the point where it makes it seem like maybe this ethnic culture that was not naturally inherent to the UK at the time is now the predominant force. I look at things like New York City. I look at things like California, where it seems the minority has suddenly become the majority voice. I don't inherently have a problem with that. I'm going to go on a quick side tangent here. I don't plan on having children, which the older I get, the more I'm reinforced it's a bad thing. I wouldn't say I'd be a good parent, but I'd educate my child from home, utilizing better resources than what was allotted to me when I was a kid growing up in the 90s in a poor, lower class family. So from those mistakes, I'm sure I could be a better parent. But because of that, the natural instinct of leaving a legacy by having a child, raising them properly so they can grow up to be upstanding citizens and contribute to their community, is lost on me, I should say. I understand the concept. It's not something I'm going to do. But that doesn't mean I can't have an impact on my community otherwise. But the first thing that comes to a lot of people's minds is you have to think about the next generation. You have to think about your lineage, and you have to think about what's going to be left behind from your impact. And for a lot of people, it's a hard pill to swallow here. Your impact is minimal. Your impact may be limited to your immediate family, maybe your immediate surroundings, so your neighborhood, maybe at best your local community, town you grew up in. And that's okay. You don't need to be anyone special. All right? I'm going to take the opposite approach. You're not a special snowflake. You're just like everybody else. What you choose to do with yourself and your capabilities is what makes you a special individual. Something that will stand out. But I think for the vast majority of people, it's the easiest to just have a child, hopefully raise them to be better than yourself, and they carry your lineage forward. And then when your grandfather and your great-grandson is a fucking World War III Medal of Honor recipient, you feel proud that maybe you did something right. But a lot of us are going to fade to obscurity. A lot of us need to allow that process to happen. Again, see the example of all the politicians in the United States government. Their time has passed 30 years ago, but we still allow it. So on some scale, I think extinction is a natural process, not just in humanity, but in the animal kingdom and the earth as a whole. And a lot of people are resistant and fearful of that, and I can understand. Again, look at New York City, look at California. It would feel very strange to be the minority suddenly overnight in your population. And I'm more in touch with this than people would imagine. I live in a community that was mostly white populated up until about 2005, 2006. We have a Middle Eastern elementary school and a Middle Eastern K through 12 school that obviously, even after 2001, saw a massive influx because our population was not swayed to all ethnic Middle Eastern people are a terrorist or problem. And I'm okay with that. You know, as the years developed, this community is now almost at half of Middle Eastern descent. We have so many halal supermarkets, a lot of coffee and tea houses, a lot of halal I don't know if they're halal, but bakeries. And I'm okay with that because the people here aren't trying to take over anything. They just exist peacefully. They go to the special schools, they go to their mosque, they interact with us like normal everyday people, they welcome us into their stores, they're peaceful. And to be honest, I think Middle Eastern women, if you ever see them without their little hijabs and shit, fucking stand at full attention for that. Definitely understand why Middle Eastern men are like, nope, we gotta cover you up all the time. How would they function? That aside, one could understand the concept now that I feel, since I'm going to be the minority soon in my local community, what's my place? What's my purpose? What am I supposed to do? And that's going to lead to the next topic of national decay. Because we don't have a sense of community or pride in our culture, everything around us has been dying. Obviously, there's one specific recent event in the 2020s that kicked off this entire process. But that was 5 years ago. And I know I carry those burdens. I worked in the medical field. I saw people die who should never have been in that situation. The toll it took on me, and the cost it had from me, I understand why it's hard to let it go. And I personally don't think I ever will. I think I'm going to hate every politician until they're dead for everything that happened during that time period. But that aside, at what point do we rebuild? At what point do we return to a sense of normalcy? One of the things I talked about in one of my shorts is the lack of nightlife that suddenly ceases to exist due to the pandemic. It's Sunday at about 10 o'clock at the time of recording this, p.m. And 6 years ago, I could go to Walmart, shop, and go to a handful of bars that would be open till 2 on a Sunday, that would be normally open till 4 on a Saturday or Friday. And now there's nothing. Part of it is actually artificially extended because the Muslim community seems to really enjoy coffee at midnight. So there's a lot of coffee shops that I can go to. But thanks to the jab and the side effects of myocarditis, I can't really have caffeine anymore. Getting back onto it though. When's the last time you had a good, coherent conversation that was beyond surface level with a human being? If it was longer than 5 years ago, this is part of the problem I'm talking about. So I had a conversation with my mom on Thursday, and I was talking about how when I went to the No Kings protest, and then I went to, just normal everyday gatherings from that point onward, I saw such a disconnect between how people interact on a normal day-to-day basis and basic functioning. Conversations are short bullet point answers. Communication with anyone outside of a workplace is non-existent. There's no casual conversation, no small talk about the weather. I take public transportation whenever I'm basically able to because I can't legally drive in the state. So being on trains, everyone's got the AirPods in. Everyone's reading their phone, tablet, what have you. And then I go somewhere that's specifically tailored for you to have conversations. I go to a bar or something, right? And no one's fucking talking. You have people staring up at the screens. You have the small group who came together, and even they are spending more time on their phone than they are talking with each other. And again, these conversations are bullet points on surface level intelligence of conversation. They're just talking in a group as an individual. They're not talking to a group. They're not talking with a group. They're talking all as individuals that happen to be together. And it makes it very difficult for someone like myself, who's basically an introvert. I'm an extrovert in the sense of work, for my job, running a nonprofit for veterans, when I was a touring musician back in the day, from when I had leadership roles when I was in the Navy. I had to develop when to be an extrovert, but for the most part, I'm totally all right standing in this parking lot by myself. But that doesn't function. That doesn't work. That leads to a lot of depression. It leads to a lot of lack of motivation, lethargy in every aspect of your life. And I think we all personally saw that 5 years ago. And that's, again, part of what I'm talking about, national decay. Individuals don't have the stamina, the motivation, the drive to see beyond themselves. We're all very selfish, self-driven, but not in a motivated way. It's a survival sense. Another conversation I had with some friends were about how everything is a lot easier when you get in a survival standpoint. Now, this conversation I was talking to, one of them was a former Marine, which, yes, I'm going to ruffle some feathers. I'm a doc saying that, so maybe I should edit that out. Was a Marine. The other one was his cousin who was civilian. Now, they both had some pretty hard lives. The Marine never saw combat. I never saw combat. But for any other Marines out there who are watching this, I'm sure you understand, you are instilled with that sense of you will survive. Maybe not a kill instinct, but you will come back as a Marine no matter what. And explaining that to a civilian is a little tricky, but this civilian had a very hard life, and learn survival in the streets through fighting, through personal loss, through bad upkeep, bad upbringing. So it's not hard for most people to understand the concept of survival. What's hard is to not live in survival mode. And I personally feel a lot of what we're having today is remnants of 2020, and we're still operating in survival. We're not trying to get together to build something. We're not trying to heighten up ourselves, our family, our friends. We're not trying to make our community better than it is. We're just surviving. And on an individual level, I understand. I don't make a lot of money. I have to live with my dad because I run a nonprofit. So I don't make a lot of money. I don't eat every day. And if I do, it's meals like bologna and cheese sandwiches. That's why I got the gut. I'm okay with a little bit of sacrifice because the thing that I'm doing is building up where others are faltering, where others are choosing not to because they don't have the time, they don't have the ability, whatever it is. And I get it. Some people have lives, families, kids, multiple jobs, side hustles, hobbies even. But those things can't detract from the problem that's growing outside of your window. This concept of national decay. No one has the ability to stand up. No one chooses to take the opportunity to stand up to something wrong in their community. And then that compounds to something wrong with our nation. Again, the Epstein list, the fact that most of us are just letting something like that go, when the ramifications are our entire world is run on such a disgusting predilection. It's astounding to me at how many people would rather operate in survival mode and make meager, if little to none, of progress, all for the sake of false happiness. Because you're not going to find happiness in survival. You're going to find survival. Ask any combat veteran. And I think through my experience working with them for multiple years, not just as running a nonprofit, but also working at a VA as a medical professional, I think I have a little bit that I can say when it comes to the perspective of a combat veteran from someone who is not. Operating in survival is what allows you to survive a situation. The transition home, when you have to realize, I cannot resort to violence to solve this problem, is such a jarring transition for the human being. Because we return to a primitive state. We return to how things used to be. But instead, we're thrust back into this artificial construct of ethics, potential morality. And it's a hard transition. A lot of veterans really struggle with that. These are people who've seen the most chaotic, worst possible things human beings can do to each other. And then they have to go to work to a 9 to 5. And they have to play the corporate game. Yes, sir. No, sir. Would you like a smoke, sir? People don't even fucking smoke anymore. Lost their fucking balls on that. Sorry, it's a saying I used to have when I was a kid. But, joke aside, that is why we have the problem that we have with the veteran community being underserviced, the 22 a day, and the homeless situation that we have. So that is with one demographic that has encountered the absolute extreme of survival. How is a normal civilian who was locked in their house for 2 to 3 years, or was put in a major role that few would ever expect themselves to be in, and be an essential worker? Not to degrade it, but to make someone who works at a restaurant an essential worker. So the Uber driver, who is now also an essential worker, can drive your food to your house because you work from home as a remote essential worker. I think you've seen just how easy these societal constructs can be removed, or, quite the opposite, even more restrictive to the point that all freedoms are basically gone. I'll leave it up to you to remember your time with your town and how chaotic things were with the initial mask mandates, potential forced injections. I don't even consider them vaccinations at this point. So, people don't want to escape the survival mindset. But people aren't flourishing. Because of that, our community isn't flourishing. Because of that, our nation is decaying. And this ties into the extinction aspect. What started as one potential problem for what is still widely considered the majority white males, we aren't even able to combat either extinction as a whole, or for ourselves, or even national decay, because we are just choosing instead to operate in survival independently. And I'm telling you, that's why we have what we have today. I'll leave it with this. One of the things that is constantly irritating me living with my dad is that he's frequently like, I can't believe things cost this much. I can't believe this thing that I used to get as a kid is this small now. I can't believe X, Y, Z. And it gets to the point, he's an old man, he's disabled, it's not really all there much anymore thanks to the diabetes. But it gets to the point where I'm like, well, Dad, how did we get here? This is what you did. Well, I didn't do anything. Well, exactly, Dad, you didn't do anything to combat it. To stand by and allow this society to collapse to what it has is just as bad as perpetrating it. And it really is, because so many people are not doing anything. And this will tie back to the very first thing I was talking about. I've not been making videos as much. I've not been doing really anything as much because I feel so restricted in my ability to speak. And I run a nonprofit, and I just did a major show, a major event at one of our biggest parks. Lieutenant Dan Band had come to play for a 20th anniversary of an organization, and I made some things happen. I'm going to downplay my role because there was just a lot of politics with it, but I made some things happen that made that event as good as it could be. And there were thousands of people, probably about 2,000 people. So I see there is a community. I would say at least 45% of them were veterans. And granted, they were all there for entertainment. And they should be. We shouldn't always be in work mode. We shouldn't always be in survival mode. We should have opportunities for ourselves to relax and enjoy things. But I saw so many capable human beings, not just white males, sitting there, getting lost, listening to music, and then they pack their bags, get on the shuttles, and go home. And they don't do anything after. They don't harness the energy in the air that was delivered through patriotism, through the love and the multicultural language that is music. They just go home and return to survival. And it's so fucking saddening and aggravating. Because I don't expect everyone to start a nonprofit for veterans. I don't expect everyone to grab their guns and riot and tear down governments. But I expect fucking something. Hold accountability. Have more actual protest, not this no king bullshit where people just say we're going to do stuff peacefully and nothing gets done. We go there and we offer an ultimatum. Listen to our voices, or we use our constitutional rights and we dethrone tyranny. You can take that however you want. I'm pretty upfront about what I want to have happen. But again, what am I doing? Am I just talking about the problem? Yes, that is something. That is a thing more proactive than what most other human beings are doing currently. I'm more engaged in my community. my community that may, in the next few years, have a Muslim majority. As long as they're not trying to throw our way of life aside and turn us into caliphate sovereign state, I give a fuck. But the second it does start happening, that's on me if I don't do anything. It's on all of us to just stand by. I'm not blaming you. Because again, in the last 5 years, I've lost so much to be where I'm at today. And to be honest, I would trade everything to be back in 2020 to make the right decisions to not be where I'm at today. But unfortunately, it's just like the Matrix. I took the fucking red pill. And I'm suffering here in the real. You can't go back to the Matrix. But you can make the real better. But what are you going to do about it? Come up with a plan. Start small. Local community, your neighbors, your family. What can you do to be a proactive and positive member of your neighborhood? And expand that outward. Run for small political office. Town clerk. Committee board member. Mayor. Scale that up linearly. You don't have to take a giant bite and hope something works. You don't got to just jump ship and go straight to being a senator. Do you know what it's like to lead people? Do you understand the concept of cost, not financially? Not many people do. So to throw yourself into these high positions of authority is going to lead to the exact problems that we have today. So you have to start small. You have to do the work to get to the big picture. And if you're not going to do that, it's because of two things. You're incompetent or you're incapable. I don't tolerate incompetence. If you're incapable, you better be more fucking disabled and injured than me. I'm just trying to make you understand. If we don't change anything about what's going on, not just with the United States of America, but mental, cultural perspective of the entire world, we will face more than national decay. We will face extinction. I've given you some things to think about, given you potential starting grounds. Now you got to do the work. I'm trying. And I'm going to keep trying as long as my mental health allows me. Because this is a toll. Again, we'll close this on cost. No progress is made without cost. No successes in life come without cost. I've lost so fucking much. So what am I going to do with that loss? Am I going to let it defeat me? That's what the government wants. That's even what people in the community I live in want. But again, that's selfish. It's just making it easier to expedite extinction. And even though I'm not going to have kids, that doesn't mean I want the world to end when I die. There has to be something that we can do to make things better. Just be proactive, be positive, be a force for change, even if it's on the small scale. You have the capabilities. Get to it. I'll be seeing you.